Robert Mitchell sat in seat 3A of the evening flight from Chicago to Boston, his leather briefcase tucked beneath the seat in front of him. At 52 years old, he was the CEO of a successful pharmaceutical company, a man who'd built his career on 12-hour workdays and endless business trips. Tonight, he felt every single one of those years weighing on his shoulders. The plane was filling up with passengers. Robert loosened his gray silk tie and ran a hand through his dark, neatly combed hair, now showing distinguished touches of silver at the temples. His tailored charcoal suit, crisp white shirt, and polished appearance spoke of success. But his tired blue eyes told a different story. He'd just come from a board meeting that had lasted 6 grueling hours. The quarterly reports were down. Investors were nervous. His marriage of 23 years had ended in divorce papers signed just 3 months ago. His adult children were busy with their own lives, too busy to return his calls most days. Robert closed his eyes and took a slow breath. The businessman's life wasn't supposed to feel this empty. A gentle voice broke through his thoughts. "Excuse me, sir." He opened his eyes to find a small girl standing in the aisle beside his row. She couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old, with strawberry blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore a soft pink dress with small flowers on it, and on her back was a bright green backpack decorated with a golden Eiffel Tower charm. "Yes?" Robert asked, trying to soften his tired expression. "You look tired, sir," the little girl said simply, her hazel eyes full of innocent concern. Robert blinked in surprise. In his world of corporate meetings and business dealings, no one spoke so directly, so honestly. I suppose I am a bit tired," he admitted. "My mommy says when people look tired, they need someone to be nice to them," the girl explained. "I'm Emma. I'm sitting right there." She pointed to seat 3B, right next to him. Before Robert could respond, a young woman appeared, gently guiding Emma toward her seat. "I'm so sorry," the woman said, offering Robert an apologetic smile. "Emma, you can't just talk to every tired-looking person on the plane." "But, Mommy, you said—" "I know what I said, sweetheart." The woman helped Emma into the middle seat and then settled into the aisle seat herself. She was in her early 30s, dressed simply in jeans and a comfortable sweater, with the same strawberry blonde hair as her daughter. As the plane began to taxi toward the runway, Robert found himself watching Emma from the corner of his eye. She pulled a worn, stuffed rabbit from her backpack and held it carefully in her lap. The rabbit was clearly well-loved, with one ear slightly floppy and patches where the fur had been loved smooth. "Mr. Rabbit is a little scared of flying," Emma whispered to Robert, as if sharing a secret. "I always tell him it's okay. The plane is like a big bird, and birds are meant to fly." Robert felt something unexpected, a small smile tugging at his lips. "That's very wise," he said quietly. "Mr. Rabbit is lucky to have you." Emma beamed at him. As the plane lifted into the evening sky, Robert noticed Emma pressing her face against the window, her eyes wide with wonder at the city lights below growing smaller and smaller. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Robert found himself saying. "It's like stars, but on the ground," Emma said thoughtfully. "All those lights are people in their houses, having dinner or watching TV or getting ready for bed." "My mommy says every light is a story." Robert felt something shift in his chest. When had he last looked at the world with such simple wonder? When had he last thought about the stories behind all those lights? The flight attendant came by with drinks. Emma's mother ordered apple juice for Emma and coffee for herself. Robert, who usually ordered scotch on evening flights, surprised himself by asking for hot tea. Emma carefully sipped her juice through a straw, then turned to Robert again. "Why are you so tired, sir?" "Emma," her mother cautioned gently. "It's all right," Robert said. He paused, considering how to answer such an innocent question. "I suppose I've been working very hard for a very long time, and sometimes I forget to rest." Emma nodded seriously, as if he'd said something profoundly important. "My grandpa used to be like that. Grandma said he worked and forgot to play. But then he got sick, and when he got better, he changed. Now he plays with me every Saturday. Is that so?" Robert asked, genuinely interested. "Uh-huh. We build things with blocks and go to the park and feed the ducks. Grandpa says the ducks were there all along, but he was too busy to see them." Emma took another sip of her juice. Maybe you have ducks too, sir. You just have to look. Robert felt an unexpected warmth in his eyes. This little girl, with her innocent wisdom, was saying things his therapist had tried to tell him in 5 different ways. But somehow, hearing it from Emma, it finally made sense. You know what, Emma? I think you might be right. The flight continued smoothly. Emma's mother pulled out a book and began reading quietly. Emma, however, seemed determined to befriend Robert. She showed him her backpack charms, the Eiffel Tower from her grandmother who lived in Paris, a tiny baseball glove from her uncle, a rainbow her teacher had given her for being kind. Each charm had a story, and Emma told each one with the detailed enthusiasm that only a child can muster. Robert found himself asking questions, genuinely curious. When had he last listened to someone, really listened, without checking his phone or thinking about his next meeting? Sir, Emma said after a while, you have a sad face. Even when you smile. Her mother reached over quickly. Emma, that's not polite. No, Robert interrupted gently. She's right. He looked at Emma's open, honest face. I have been sad. For quite a while now, actually. Why? Emma asked simply. How could he explain to a 6-year-old about divorce, about loneliness, about the hollow feeling of success without meaning? Sometimes grown-ups lose their way, he said finally. We forget what makes us happy. Emma thought about this for a moment. Then she carefully unbuckled her seatbelt, climbed onto her knees on the seat, and gave Robert a gentle pat on his arm. It's okay to be sad, she said softly. But you don't have to be sad forever. My mommy was sad when Daddy left, but she says we're finding new happy now. Robert glanced at Emma's mother, who had tears glistening in her own eyes. Your daughter is remarkable, Robert said to her. The woman smiled sadly. She's been my light through a very dark tunnel. Kids have a way of keeping us honest, don't they? They do, Robert agreed. For the rest of the flight, the 3 of them talked. Emma's mother, whose name was Jennifer, shared her own story. A difficult divorce, moving back to Boston to be near family, starting over as a single mother. Through it all, Emma had been her constant reminder of what truly mattered. Robert found himself sharing too, more than he'd shared with anyone in years. The loneliness of his big empty house, the way his children had sided with their mother in the divorce, the realization that he'd built an empire but forgotten to build a life. It's never too late, Jennifer said gently. That's what my mother keeps telling me, and I'm starting to believe her. As the plane began its descent into Boston, Emma yawned and rubbed her eyes. Without thinking, she leaned against Robert's arm. He froze for just a moment, then gently adjusted his position so she'd be more comfortable. She trusts you, Jennifer said softly. Emma's usually shy with strangers. I'm honored, Robert whispered back, and he meant it. When the plane landed and the seatbelt sign turned off, Emma stirred and sat up. We're here, she said sleepily. Then she looked at Robert with those wise, innocent eyes. Will you remember about the ducks, sir? I will, Robert promised. I absolutely will. As they gathered their belongings, Robert reached into his briefcase and pulled out his business card. He handed it to Jennifer. This might seem strange, but if Emma ever needs anything, college fund, medical care, anything, please call me. I mean that. Jennifer looked at the card, then at Robert's sincere face. That's very kind, but please, Robert said. Your daughter gave me something tonight that I've been missing for a very long time. She reminded me what it means to see the world clearly. Let me do this. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears and she nodded. Thank you. Emma gave Robert one more gentle pat on the arm. Bye, sir. I hope you find you're happy. Robert watched them disappear into the crowd at the gate. He stood there for a long moment, feeling something shift deep in his chest, something that had been frozen for too long beginning to thaw. He pulled out his phone and, for once, didn't check his emails. Instead, he called his daughter Sophie. It rang 4 times before she answered, surprise evident in her voice. Dad, is everything okay? Hi, sweetheart, Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. Yes, everything's okay. I wanted to call and tell you I love you, and to ask if maybe we could have dinner sometime this week. Just the 2 of us. No business talk. I want to hear about your life. There was a pause. Then, softly, I'd really like that, Dad. As Robert walked through the airport toward the exit, he noticed things he usually rushed past. An elderly couple holding hands, a father tossing his giggling toddler in the air, a woman reading a book with such absorption she'd missed her boarding call. All those lights, all those stories. He stepped outside into the cool Boston evening. Somewhere in this city, Emma was probably already home, maybe getting ready for bed, telling Mr. Rabbit about the tired man on the plane. Robert smiled, a real smile this time, one that reached his eyes. Tomorrow, he decided, he'd start looking for those ducks. They'd been there all along. He just hadn't been ready to see them until a little girl with a green backpack and innocent wisdom had opened his eyes. Sometimes it takes a child to remind us what it means to be human, to be kind, to see the